Alright, this is going to be an incredibly unusual video for me, so go ahead and buckle up. I hope you're ready to get fucking weird.
Well, each vessel travels along a vector through space-time along its center of gravity.
Like a spear.
I beg your pardon?
Like a spear that comes out of your chest.
Sure, yeah. And in order for the vessel to travel through time, it's got to find a porthole, or in this case, a wormhole, or...
Well, could these portals just appear anywhere, anytime?
I think that's highly unlikely.
This video is not sponsored by Oots Buttered Popcorn.
Time travel. Yes, that is what we are talking about today. Okay, so for years we've seen time travel at the forefront of entertainment, especially in the sci-fi genre. You know, for years. Like, you look at old shows like Quantum Leap, and then the forever long running Doctor Who, you know, and the cult classic film, which we just saw a second of, Donnie Darko. You know, there's a lot of interesting theories and, you know, beliefs about time travel. A lot of things have been proven, a lot of things have been disproven. You know, a lot remains to be seen. There's uncertainties. And today, I think I'm going to offer proof that the music industry is in on time travel, and that time travel is a thing, and it's real, it's been done, and because of the Mandela effect, people have missed it.
Oh great, here we go.
Now, time travel is something that has been extensively studied by two of the world's former most brilliant minds, Albert Einstein and Stephen Hawking. In 1905, Einstein published a paper stating the intimate relationship between space and time, the intertwining of space and time, and that you could describe any event by time, location, the event itself, through an equation of 4 numbers. Now, this was the beginning of time travel being a possible reality. So it wasn't long before Einstein's studies led him to the conclusion that reverse time travel was not possible. You could not travel to the past, but you could only move forward in time. Now, this is something that Stephen Hawking also picked up and expanded upon and wanted to understand on a much deeper level, as he does. The introduction and implementation of quantum theory has since dispelled many of the previous thought absolutes when it comes to energy and space-time.
This is real fascinating and all, but what does it have to do with the music industry? Spill the tea, bitch.
Alright, so the axiom of uncertainties presented within quantum theory reopened the door for the possibility of reverse time travel, meaning that you could travel back in time to a particular event. Now, let's say that particular event happens to be a song. Okay, so raise your hand if you remember the 2003 hit single called Hurt from this old guy. I think his name was Johnny Cash.
Oh man, I love that song. Oh shit, that's my jam.
Okay, good. If you remember the song, it actually was released in 2002 on a full-length album called American 4, The Man Comes Around. Now, this is where things get interesting. One of the executive producers on the album was a man by the name of Rick Rubin. So, a little background on Mr. Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash was the godfather of the hipsters. He pioneered that whole scene and movement. He's lovingly referred to by the hipsters as the Man in Black. Now, where this term came from, this is where the conspiracy comes into play. So, Johnny Cash was a really old white guy, had a lot of money, a lot of influence. Who else has a lot of money, a lot of influence, is old and white? The government. That's right, the government. Johnny Cash was part of the government. Now, in order to hide his ties and his identity and be able to start this movement and influence a younger generation and pull them towards the ideals and accepting the changes that were gonna come from the government, he had to win them over. How do you do that? You wear all black. It's simple. Brilliant. Now, in an article in a blog that I can conveniently no longer find, it sort of broke down the whole premise behind the man in black and what the black symbolized. It was on a subconscious level, it showed a form of rebellion towards authority, and this is what the youth sort of picked up on and embraced. It was sort of an identifying characteristic, like, hey, we're against authority as well.
A lot of popcorn.
So we're gonna wear all black and scarves and fedoras and drink PBR like Johnny Cash.
But what does this particular song have to do with time travel?
So when I first heard the song, it sounded eerily familiar to me, like I'd heard it somewhere before, like another time. And I started racking my brain, like I had to figure out why it sounded so familiar to me and why it resonated with me. It was like it was part of my past almost. Then it struck me. I remembered a song that I had heard in high school. All right, now listen to this. This is the Johnny Cash song.
Everyone I know goes away in the end, and you could have.
All right. Now this is the song that I remembered from my past. It's by a band called Nin.
Holy hell, it's the exact same song. How is that even possible?
Alright, so the band Nin, it turns out, is actually just one guy. His name is Trip Reznor? No, that doesn't sound right. Reznor doesn't even sound like a real last name. I bet it's Renzo. Trip Renzo, that's his name. That's what we're going to call him. So he had this band called, was just him, like I said, but it was called, his project was called Nin. Now, from what I can tell from album covers, Nin was an acronym for 9 Inch Nails. Now, trying to find the relevance to, or the meaning behind that is complicated. Some people believe that it's in reference to the nails that were used to crucify Jesus, and that basically it was sort of a reference that his music, he basically crucified himself and his relationships in his music. But that just seems to me, that seems a little deep. Like, most neurotypical people aren't going to relate to that, which in turn would be bad for album sales, and I can't see a record label letting that fly. So I'm going to say that's incorrect. That's not what 9 Inch Nails means. As to what it means, it will always remain a mystery. So the album that song appeared on was originally released March 8th of 1994. Now keep in mind that Johnny Cash song didn't even come out until 2002. Now, the name of the Nin album, the one that Trip Renzo wrote, is called The Downward Spiral. So, picturing a downward spiral, what does that simulate? A wormhole. What are wormholes used for? Time travel. Now, given Tripp's extensive knowledge of synthesizers, because his music is more electronic based, one can conclude that he is in fact a scientist, probably well versed in astrophysics. Now, I spoke earlier of a producer named Rick Rubin. Now, guess what album Rick Rubin also helped produce? That's right, Nin's Downward Spiral. Okay, so Tripp has shown us indirectly that he knows about wormholes because he is in fact a scientist, and the name 9 Inch Nails has no deeper meaning because scientific studies have shown that scientists generally have no feelings. Now you remember who else knows a lot about wormholes? Stephen Hawking. Now, can you guess what Stephen Hawking's favorite sandwich was? Yes, that's right. It's the same favorite sandwich of anyone and everyone who studies astrophysics and quantum theory, wormholes, black holes, dark matter, energy like space-time, all that good stuff. Anything under that umbrella in that realm of uncertainty and possibilities and wonders and all that, their favorite sandwich collectively is the Reuben. Now, where have we heard that word before? Maybe Rick Rubin? So given this information, we now know with the utmost certainty that Rick Rubin did in fact study quantum theory. He must have been very deep into it. Now, what we can conclude from this, given his connection between Trip Renzo and Johnny Cash, is that with the combined knowledge of Trip Renzo with astrophysics and Rick Rubin with quantum theory, they were able to figure out time travel. They traveled to the future, they heard this song on the radio, and they were like, oh man, this is great. So they went and met Johnny Cash, sat down with him, talked to him for a little bit, like, oh yeah, you're cool, you're great, whatever. And they came back to the past, and Trent released the song in 1994. Now, Trip figured that 8 years was enough time passed and enough of a generation shift, according to his calculations, that no one would remember his song, or that he had gone to the future, time traveled, stolen this song and brought it back and released it in 1994. That would be sort of wiped away, especially with introducing the Mandela effect, which we now know Trip and Rubin are responsible for creating. They probably did it in Geneva at CERN in the future, probably around 2012, and then brought it back here. And then, that's how that happened. So there's another mystery explained. But Rubin, on the other hand, Rick Rubin couldn't get the song out of his head. He couldn't get that old man out of his head. The power, the influence, the musky smell of whiskey. He had to work more with him. He had to hear more music. So he traveled back to the future to help him produce that whole album. So a man earlier this year claimed to be a time traveler from the year 2030 and said he could offer video proof of time travel and that he is from the future and that he's been to the year 2120 and has a video of Las Vegas in the year 2120 with flying cars and all sorts of futuristic stuff like that. Now I found this incredibly interesting given the whole breakdown that I just gave you guys about, the music industry. What do you guys think about that, and what do you think of our time traveler from 2030? Has anyone seen the video? Does anyone think it's real? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you're new to the channel, think about subscribing. Join the Moral Militia. We get weird here.